right now is California Congressman Ted Lieu, a Democratic member of the House Judiciary and Foreign Affairs Committees. He was also just elected vice chair of the House Democratic Caucus, for which I send my applause and congratulations. All right, so my question to you, do you have any concerns about what lifting Title 42 this week could mean for the border? And is there anything Congress can do this week to help the administration handle the influx of migrants that's expected?
Thank you, Alex, for your question. You know who tried to shut down the southern border? Richard Nixon over 50 years ago with Operation Intercept. And every president since him, Democrat or Republican, has had problems at the southern border. So this is an issue that has been recurring for over 5 decades. It's over half a century old. And Democrats do have a plan to fix it. It's called comprehensive immigration reform. And Republicans are holding that up. Congresswoman Linda Sanchez has a terrific bill. We should implement that bill. In the short term, we should provide the administration the resources they need to address the southern border. But this is an issue that has been ongoing. And if we really want to solve it, we need comprehensive immigration reform.
Yeah, and I should also add that I had your colleague, Madeleine Dean, on earlier, and she said the first thing to address is the humanitarian issue at the border. I presume you agree with that as well.
Yes, and I also note that under the Obama administration, they implemented the family case management program where they kept families together, they released them, and there was a 99% effectiveness rate, meaning that most of them, almost all of them, came back for all their immigration proceedings.
Okay, from there now, as we turn to the January 6th committee ahead of the final public hearing tomorrow, Wednesday, the release of the final report. This panel actively considering sending the DOJ the criminal referrals for Donald Trump on 3 possible charges, again, those being insurrection, official proceedings of Congress, obstructing those, and conspiracy. You, sir, were an impeachment manager in Trump's second Senate trial. Are these possible charges substantiated by all the evidence the committee has presented?
Well, let me first say it's so sad you have to identify which impeachment because a former president was just that bad. But it was very clear to me during the second impeachment proceedings that Donald Trump asked people to show up on a very specific date. Why didn't he pick January 5th or January 7th? Because he needed to pick the date that Congress was going to certify his loss. That was January 6th. And he got the people there. He sent them to the Capitol for the purpose of obstructing that legitimate governmental activity of certifying his loss. That is a federal crime. Now, whether or not there's evidence to show that, that's something the January 6th committee members are going to have to look into because they have access to evidence I do not have, and I trust whatever it is that the January 6th committee does.
So what about the impact that any criminal referral from the committee could have on the DOJ? Do you think it could move the needle at all for Special Counsel Jack Smith's investigation in any sort of meaningful way?
I think one reason that the committee might do this is there has been a lot of frustration at the Department of Justice. It's very clear, for example, when you read the Mueller report, that Donald Trump committed multiple acts of obstruction of justice, yet the Department of Justice did nothing. They could have prosecuted him. They failed to do so. It's also very clear that Donald Trump engaged in campaign finance reform with Stormy Daniels. How do we know that? Because his co-conspirator, Michael Cohen, went to prison for the exact same crime that the Department of Justice failed to charge Donald Trump for. So there's all this built-up frustration. I think one of the goals here is to let the Department of Justice know, hey, you should not treat Donald Trump differently. You need to apply the law to him just like every other American.
Well, Donald Trump, for his part, is not acting any differently when it comes to social media. He's been lashing out today against the committee on his platform. One of his posts from this morning says, quote, Republicans and patriots all over the land must stand strong and united against the thugs and scoundrels of the Unselect Committee. Yet again, giving one of his charming nicknames. But that said, I'm curious your reaction. And as we see this kind of language coming from the former president, does it raise the question of whether political risk comes with a criminal referral? Are you concerned at all of political retaliation or any kind of violence when Republicans take over control of the House? There could be surges of unrest in the country if nothing happens and people feel like nobody's being held accountable.
Well, let's just first say that Donald Trump's social media posts are repetitive and boring. He just sort of says the same thing over and over again, and he's losing support within our country because people find him really quite boring now. Now, in terms of possible violence, Republicans can reduce the risk of political violence if they simply say one sentence. I urge all Republican leaders in the House to say that the election was not stolen. If they would only say that, that would reduce the risk of political violence.
Actually, I think you're right. That would do something right there. Let me ask you about you being one of the 40 original co-sponsors on this new bill. It's been introduced by Congressman David Cicilline. This would bar Donald Trump from holding future federal office under the 14th Amendment, which says no one who previously took an oath to support the Constitution and engaged in insurrection or rebellion shall hold any office. At this point, as Republicans prepare to take control of the House, is this seen as more symbolic of a vote, or could this actually pass and get to the president's desk?
So I support the legislation because it basically puts into law what the Constitution already has. So it helps enact the actual words of the Constitution. I think there is a chance that Republicans could support this because the one thing they can't stand is a loser. And Donald Trump is a loser. And not only did he lose the 2020 election, all his candidates that he supported essentially for federal office, they lost in these Senate races. And a lot of his ideas are now becoming loser ideas, such as election denialism. So I could see Republicans trying to support this because they actually don't want him to run because he's going to cause them to lose again.
Okay. Never one to mince words, which is why we bring you back all the time, my friend. Congressman Ted Lieu from Los Angeles. Thank you much.